to stay.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond Boards, a podcast dedicated to the actions and interests of skaters beyond skateboarding. My guest today, Atita Verghese, grew up in Bangalore, India, where she started skating in 2013 at the age of 19. Shortly after, she met with the good people of NGO Make Life Skate Life and learned how to build skate spots. In 2015, she founded Girl Skate India, an organization which teaches girls how to skate, promotes gender equality, and brings together skateboarders in India through workshops. Throughout the years, Atita has slowly but surely become a powerful and inspiring figure for skateboarding in India. I had the opportunity to sit down with her for a nice chat late March 2023 to discuss her life and ongoing projects. So here's my conversation with Atita. I hope you'll enjoy it. Taking a bit of time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me again.
My pleasure. So I usually start my interviews with the same question with everybody and just ask them how they started skating, basically. But before you tell me about skateboarding, I wanted to ask you maybe about your upbringing, because I read some interviews that you did in the last few years, and I saw that you grew up in Bangalore, if I'm not mistaken, but I think you don't live there anymore. I think you're in Goa right now, aren't you? Or around there?
I did grow up in Bangalore and I spent most of my life there, and actually right before the pandemic, I came to Goa, and then I kind of got stuck in Goa because of the lockdown, and then I just sort of ended up making it my home and staying here. So I live here now, and I'm trying to do the same things that I am in Bangalore, but over here I can do other things also. I'm by the coast, so it's nice and sunny, and I can surf here as well. So
I read also in these interviews that you gave a few years back that your mom was a very strong, independent woman who used to wear Western style clothes at a time where it was not, widely accepted. And basically that you picked that from her, being independent and wanting to create your own lane and not necessarily do what other people tell you to do. So I just wanted to ask you about that. Yeah, your upbringing and how your mom maybe influenced you in your early days.
Yeah, so basically my mom, she was my biggest inspiration growing up, honestly, because she doesn't really, do anything unless she wants to do it. And she sort of lived her life on her terms, and I can really appreciate that about her. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she grew up in a small village before she moved to Bangalore, and she kind of grew up in a very traditional family, and they got her married quite young, pulled her out of college, and then her mom passed as well, so she just kind of ran away from them and moved to Bangalore by herself, and started her life there. Mm-hmm. And lived according to how she wanted to live, and it was a huge inspiration. And growing up, I definitely saw that in her, and it was my normal. And I feel even before my mom did all of that, my grandma used to be quite open-minded and different in her thinking. Mm-hmm. She had to, sleep and do everything in her whole day in her sari, and she didn't want her daughter to grow up in the same way. So she kind of tried to change things with my mom. So it started with my grandmom, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and in that village, there weren't really so many people that were wearing Western style outfits, or more covered up and things like that, a little bit more reserved and traditional. My mom used to get clothes stitched for her, looking at all these European fashion magazines and things like that. So she used to get all these clothes tailor-made like it was in the magazines, and just she had a passion for fashion. So yeah, so that kind of definitely trickled down to me, and I thank my grandmom for starting the breaking of the chain cycles.
I read also that unfortunately she was attacked by some people with acid or something, but I think she was okay though. She wasn't burnt or not too bad at least. But yeah, what happened? Were they just pissed off by her wearing these clothes, and they were just it was just too bothering for them for some reason, or what happened?
Yeah, I mean, people anywhere are like kind of scared of change, and like back in the villages, it's quiet. It's still very traditional and still very difficult, rigid to sort of like break that mold, like in the
Sure.
cities, like it's so much easier to do that because it's like a metropolitan place and like you have people from all around and like there's more anonymity and it's like, there's so many people and there's like, yeah, so it's a different thing. But in the village, like people used to talk about her and like how she used to dress and like things like this in a negative way, and my grandma and her used to sort of like just try to ignore all those comments and do what they were doing anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess at some point that pissed the village off a little bit, or like few people in the village. So like she kind of got attacked when she went to a fair one time.
Okay.
But luckily nothing touched her skin, so she just had like this huge hole in her skirt, but like it wasn't anything that touched her skin, luckily.
Yeah, she could have been like badly injured, and yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, actually it's quite a common thing in India, like acid attacks.
Wow.
Yeah, like if you don't do what is according to the society over here, like sometimes, just like hate crimes and stuff, like, well, like lots of women actually are like victims to acid attacks and they just like mostly on the face. It's quite gruesome actually. But like, yeah, there's lots of these cases, unfortunately, because it's so easy to just get it over the counter, this chemical. Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank God she was okay. But yeah, that must have been pretty traumatic for her and also for you. And I think you have a sister as well, right?
Yeah, I have a sibling. I have one older sister. But yeah, it's horrible because, like even the fact that she like, ran away from the village and she didn't stay married to that guy they just married her off to, and like when they pulled her out of college and stuff. So like they kind of disowned her for like running away from that situation, moving to Bangalore. So like, yeah, they kind of just said, you're not our family anymore and like you're on your own,
Yeah.
So
damn.
That's the consequence she had to face, I guess, for trying to be different and do things differently.
Going on her own path.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah, I was wondering if you could tell me about your first encounter with skateboarding. I read that you started skating at 19, about 10 years ago. How did it all happen?
Well, so actually I had I kind of like had a skateboard already when I was a kid. My sister and I kind of shared one, and it wasn't really a skateboard. It was just like this really like strange shape, and like it's really tiny, and the trucks are super tiny, and like you can't really do much on it. Like it's kind of like a toy skateboard in a way, but we used to just like go down the hill, bum
hills?
bum ride it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and do stuff like that. Then I think the first time I actually saw skateboarding was probably in cartoons like The Simpsons and Rocket Power and then I think the next time was, so I have family in Canada and they like flew me over when I was a kid to like meet them because it's been like a long time since we've seen each other. And I think I seen it like some people at a skate park but it didn't really register in my head, like it was just like, oh cool, and like I just went by it. Like I think I just drove past the skate park one time and I was like, oh cool, but it didn't really register, and then the first time I actually got properly exposed to it was when my friend Abhishek, who started Holystoked collective.
Oh yes.
So he actually like used to come and hang out with me and like with his skateboard like before he would go skate. And I used to be really curious like, what is this thing and what do you do with it? Where do you even go with it? Like because I didn't even know we had a skate park or anything at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, so he took me one day and I was just mind blown. I didn't even realize we had like such a sick kind of, thing in my city. And I was like, okay, I tried it out for the first time and I was just hooked immediately. And I was like, okay, I'm going to come back tomorrow. And then I just kept doing that. And 10 years later, still doing it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so this guy Abhishek, he founded the Holystoked, it's a skate shop, right, in Bangalore?
Yeah, so they run a skate park which is free for everybody to use. It's called the Cave Skate Park in Bangalore. And they also have a shop in the skate park where they sell gear and equipment, and they also do classes. And he also runs another company called 100 Ramps with another friend of mine called the Reyes. So yeah, both of them together do that, and they build skate parks around the country and like some outside as well.
Okay.
So yeah, he's definitely a pioneer and like one of the first generation skaters of India.
And yeah, were you kind of welcomed in the little skate community that was, developing at that time? Being a girl, was it like easy? Were they welcoming and were they treating you just like anybody else? Or did you feel like you were treated differently? Or was it difficult at any point to be a girl skater? Or was it easy from the get-go?
So yeah, I mean, I think like it's a bit of both, like I don't want to paint the picture as one or the other, because it was a mixture of like both being also welcomed and accepted, but then also I had to fight a lot and like prove myself a lot in other ways, because they weren't quite, sure what my motive was. And I guess it's also like in the beginning, I used to look at it as like a really negative thing because it felt really hard to go through all of that, especially at that age. But now I'm starting to like see it from a more mature perspective, and I see that like, it might not have been really easy for them also to sort of wrap their heads around having a girl in this space, because they're just not used to it.
Yeah.
And it was a whole new thing for them as well as for me, and like I guess it wasn't easy for them to navigate having a girl in that space and like all that it comes with. But yeah, definitely wasn't easy. Like I definitely had to prove myself in many ways, and I got, comments like, oh, she's not coming for, skateboarding, but she's coming for boys. And, like, and I heard that that's also a thing in the West, when I spoke to other girl skaters later on in life. But yeah, I mean, I just used to get welcomed, but then also like there used to be also like another ulterior motive. It's not just like, oh, let's have this girl on our skate crew, but like, maybe just like getting approached in other ways, like maybe like them having a crush on me, or like, just trying to approach me in that way, and just like having to deal with all of that. And like, and also like some people don't take rejection really well, so it just like it comes out in all these other ways, and you can't really put your finger on it and say like, yeah, this is happening to me now because I'm a girl, but it's also super obvious, at the same time. So
a question that's linked to that is were there other girl skaters at that time around you, or were you pretty much the only one? And eventually you met with other girl skaters, of course, but like when you really started, were there other girls around that were skating, or not that much?
I mean, I can't remember, like, in the beginning when I had just started, I don't think there was anybody then. But I think maybe, like, shortly after that, there were, like, two girls that used to skate, actually. And they were, like, working on, like, kick turns and, like, all getting all the basics, like, pumping and things like that. But then I think they just stopped after a while, and they just stopped coming. Like, when I was just there by myself, I guess. But I didn't really, like, think anything about it because I kind of felt comfortable in that space since I was already the girl who used to hang out with the guys mostly.
Okay.
And not because of any other reason, but the fact that the guys were just doing the things that I also wanted to do, so I would just go and join them because I wanted to do those things as well. So
yeah.
Inevitably ended up being that I was kind of the only girl, like, wherever in all those spaces I would go to. And yeah, so I just had those interests, I guess. And it came to me only later, because I was still like figuring out myself and like, figuring out what I like, my style, and like, I was just so enamored by this whole skate culture, and like just having that community was like so radical for me at that time, especially. It was exactly what I was looking for, so.
And so how did your your mom and your sister and your family, overall your friends, how did people around you react to you skating at that time? Were they like surprised, supportive, or were they not stoked on it? Were they kind of telling you not to do it because it's maybe not kind of respectable thing to do, or were people supportive of it?
People are really supportive of it, actually. Like, especially my mom. My family's super supportive. Like, my mother, she would ask me, like, oh, you're not going for skateboarding today? And, like, she just, like, check in on me, like, if I'm gonna go skate or not. And if I'm not, then she'll be like, oh, how come you're not going skating today? Like, so it was just from the beginning. My mom has always been a very supportive person when it comes to, like, anything to do with sports. So she used to, like, take me, even though she didn't really have much, she didn't have any surplus. And, like, in fact, she was struggling quite a lot with money and stuff. But still, she would, like, take me to, go train for athletics and stuff. So I trained in the athletics for, like, 4 years. Like, I played all sport, basically. Like, in school, I played every single sport for my school, represented my school for every sport. And just, like, just a lot of active stuff. I used to be very active, like, my whole life. So that gave me, like, a great base, in a way, to start off with. So when I started, like, skateboarding and, like, all these other things, like, I kind of already had the sort of, strength and, like, stamina and, like, athleticism that you kind of need to, like, excel in it.
Sure.
So that way I'm really lucky and fortunate that I had a mom who was like, and even though I actually hated her for it when I was young, because it's not something, you want to do in the 4th grade. You don't want to wake up at like 4 in the morning when it's still dark and like, get ready and then spend like so much time traveling all the way there and then spend a few hours at I like the athletics part of it because I like being active and stuff. But yeah, it was a lot because I used to go before school and I used to go after school as well. I used to come back home exhausted, sometimes not even being able to do homework and stuff because I'd just be so exhausted. But luckily I had a very supportive school as well and they knew that I was like training so hard. So they kind of gave me like a little leeway here and there when it came to like not doing homework or coming a little late to school. So that way I was super lucky that they kind of understood and supported that.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of girls I feel also like in India, like, are still like they don't have the opportunity to go and do all these things and like strengthen their body from such a young age. So like when they do finally find skateboarding, and even though they love it so much, like it's a little bit difficult sometimes to like excel at it because it's just like, you need a little bit of that base, like whatever strength.
Discipline or even just strength, as you said, for sure.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering, like, how difficult was it to, access skateboarding gear at that time in Bangalore in 2013? You said Abhishek had started Holystoked, so he was probably distributing, like, selling some boards and equipment and stuff. But were you able to, have your own board fairly easily? And if you would break a board, could you like buy one easily? Like, how easy was it to access skateboarding gear at that time?
I mean, honestly, like the first time I saw a skateboard, I was like, wow, what is this thing? Like, it looked super fancy at that time because I was like, because you don't get stuff like this over here. So it was just like, wow, what is this,
Yeah.
And I remember, like, shortly after I started skating, I used to borrow people's boards in the beginning. But then eventually, Holystoked, like, started importing equipment. And I think their first shipment was, like, about 7 boards they got. Like, 7 setups.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was it, like, the first shipment of, equipment for the whole country. 7 boards, like.
Yeah, that's not a lot, yeah.
No, so definitely not gonna get a replacement if you break your board. But at that time, I wasn't skating on a level where, my board was gonna get
you weren't jumping big gaps or,
Exactly. So very difficult to get equipment then.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. And so it's kind of linked to that, but like, were you able to, see skateboarding from other countries? Like, do you remember if you got to see videos or maybe magazines at that time when you were first getting started? And if you did, like, do you remember what video or what magazine kind of caught your interest at that time?
I mean, I remember like in the beginning watching the Z Boys and just thinking like, wow, like this is so cool. And then like kind of in a way like could relate to it in a way because it was like also so new over here and like, also just like one crew of people and like one girl on it. So yeah, it was like, that was I think one of the first videos that's coming to my head, like when you asked me that.
Okay.
I remember sitting in like one of my friends, Somana, he also partly owns Holystoked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember sitting in his like small apartment at that time and all of us cramped up and just like looking at the screen and watching that. I'm sure we watched a bunch of other videos as well. I just can't really remember anything else but that one. And then like magazines, the first skate magazine I ever like touched was the Confusion magazine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That rings a bell, but I'm not too sure. Was that an American one or English? I'm not sure.
Yeah, so it's actually like run by Jonathan Hay. He's from America, but I think he lives in Spain.
Okay.
No, yeah. I mean, the last time I spoke to him, he was in Spain. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but yeah, it's a European magazine, I would say.
European,
Confusion.
okay.
It's more famous in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So when this fire and when the Make Life Skate Life guys, basically when the Make Life Skate Life like a project happened in Bangalore where they built the first free public skate park.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, so when this happened, like a bunch of builders came from Europe and like around as well, Australia, America, but like most of them were from Europe. And I remember holding that Confusion magazine and just looking at it with so much awe, like, wow, like this is so cool. And like, yeah, I just loved all the artwork and like the whole like aesthetic of it and like everything was just so rad. And I was like, and yeah, I mean, I finally like, I got to be in that magazine also, which was just like one of my highlights for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, you just mentioned the Make Life Skate Life guys who came to Bangalore. That was pretty much as you were getting started, or maybe a year or two after, I believe. And so how was that experience of, meeting with them and getting to participate in building skate parks? Like that must have been also a very interesting experience.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, actually, they came a little less than a year. I would say like 6 months after I started skating, maybe.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was just insane. Like, we learned so much. That was all of our first introduction to like building skate parks. And from there, there's like 100 ramps now. And, like I've also been a part of like several build projects around. So it's kind of like our base where we learned how to build and where we learned how to like create a space and bring community together and like work together. And like, yeah, it was insane.
Do you know how many like skate parks or skate spots you've participated in building throughout India so far?
I think that should be, I don't know, in total, maybe. I haven't actually counted, to be honest. But I would say around 10.
Okay, cool. And is it like all over the country or is it mostly in a few cities?
Some cities and then like some villages and like, yeah, all over, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And some outside as well, like when I've gone traveling and things like that.
So tell me about like starting Girl Skate India, because I believe that was not too long afterwards. So from what I understood, it's an initiative that teaches girls how to skate, and it also promotes like gender equality. And the whole purpose is to bring like skaters together in India through workshops and like skate sessions. But could you tell me about like starting that and what was the idea that started it all? And were you inspired by maybe other initiatives overseas that caught your interest?
Yeah, so initially I was kind of the only girl skater around for like the longest time. And I was at Kovalam Skate Club, which is like a branch off of the NGO called SISP, Sebastian India Social Projects. There was Lisa and Louisa.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so Lisa Jacob from France and Louisa Menke from Holland, and they were traveling in India just by themselves. And a friend of mine who I met at the Make Life Skate Life build in Bangalore, he had come, Troy Roberts, he had come to film the whole build. They got in touch with him since they knew he was in India recently, and then he put them in touch with me, and they came over. They were already in Kerala in the same state as me at that point. So I was like, I'm building this skate park here at the school. Why don't you guys come over and like, we could use some hands and it'd be a sick way to meet you. And they were like, oh, hell yes. And they were super down. So they came over and yeah, so just like when we were spending time there, we would just see like, how it was like, with the boys and how it was with the girls. And we were like, okay, we need to do something about this. Because yeah, India is still a very patriarchal country. Yeah, so then we kind of did like the first girls skate workshop ever right after that build finished. And then we made a little workshop and the three of us just sort of like tried to get more girls involved because they were like a bit shy and reserved and like, not as like responsive as the boys were. So we were like, maybe we need to dedicate a space for them and like, it kind of worked actually because there were like lots of girls that were happy about that and they came forward and some of the teachers also did and that was like really cool. That was, the first workshop, I guess, that was done. And then from there on, I just realized, that I can't stop here because the girls kind of need that extra push and they need that little extra, attention and like a little bit more like importance and like, given to them. So after that, I was like, talking to Lisa and Louisa about this whole thing and they were like, maybe we need to start some kind of like thing, and like you need to start something with it and I was thinking like, maybe I should. And then eventually I just like started, like looking online and things like that. And I found like all these Girls Skate Network and, Girls Skate UK. There's like a Girls Skate. There was the Girls Skate Australia also at that point. But I don't think they're very active at the moment. I'm not sure. But I found all these things. And like also like when I started doing things like this, I started realizing more and more that nobody else is gonna do it because like whatever I want to see happen, like I kind of have to do it myself, And then I found like this text from Kristen Ebling from Skate Like a Girl, and she wrote something about the boys club, and that resonated so much with me because I was like, wow, this is exactly how I feel as well. And she's just put it into words like perfectly. And so I just kind of like, I used to just like get motivation from knowing there are other women and girls skaters out there that are like going through exactly the same thing, but maybe in a different way or like different context, but it's the same thing in the end, So it kind of gave me a lot of strength to like keep doing what I was doing because I just wanted more of us and like more of me around and I tried my best. So I used to try to do more workshops and like organize tours and like try to get more girl skaters who are like like good skateboarders who can like rip and like inspire people and like because I really feel like, especially coming from a place like India where it's such a new thing over here, I've seen how you kind of need to have that someone who's gonna be ripping the park for just a regular person to stop and stare and then just be like, wow, what is that? And that's when they get intrigued and they come and approach you and then they're like, oh, what is this? Can I try? And then, they'll ask you for classes or like whatever. So it just happens kind of like that. So people don't really know, like otherwise they don't have any interest in it unless, you wow them like in a way. Because like, for the longest time, like I was the level because there was nobody else, So I was like the level and I was like, I need to have more people to inspire me as well as like, all the other girls here and like, show them what's possible. So I had this idea to make a tour and like get a bunch of girls to come to India and then we go on like a mission to like, sort of spread awareness and like show people that like women can also skateboard because I was like getting really frustrated like in many parts of my journey because I was like, not only having to deal with the fact that it is a difficult thing to do, it is a huge task to take on to try and get more girls to skateboard in India.
For sure,
So I would get frustrated, but like, I don't know, these kind of things kept me going because it was just so like refueling to like be around all these women and go on a skate trip with them and just share space, share music, share stories, and like share tricks, whatever, just like is so powerful. And like, at that time, like there weren't really like so many local girls involved. Also like getting comments from the outside, like from guys. Like I used to get like, all these kind of comments like you're not doing enough to bring more girls into skateboarding and, like all of this. And I just remember like at one point thinking like, hello, like this isn't even my job.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how you all like expect me to do this. Like I'm trying my best and like I can only do so much by myself,
For sure. What are they doing to get more girls into skating?
Yeah, exactly. So I was just like so frustrated with like hearing all these things. But yeah, I mean, just having all these girls around like made so much of a difference. Even though if it was just like 1 week, we would 1 week to 10 days we went on these tours, but like it just gave me so much like motivation. And then we made a video on it, and like then.
Yeah, I saw it. It was on this tour that was in 2015, right? With a bunch of girls from all over, from like 9 different countries or something.
Yeah, exactly. So we made a video on it, and then we just like, randomly decided to just premiere it in each of our cities, and it ended up being a really great thing actually, and like we got great feedback, and yeah, it just like sort of took off. Then I did a second one as well.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, but there's no video on it, unfortunately, only pictures.
Oh, okay. When was the second trip you did? Was that recently, or was that shortly after that first trip in 2015?
I think that was like 2 years after.
Okay.
So I think
2017.
Oh my gosh, I'm so bad with dates.
It's okay. No worries. No, but that must have been a fun experience to travel around India with all these women skaters from all over and to like talk with them and skate with them and build spots and have skate lessons and everything. It must have been for all of you, but also for all the people, all the young girls that attended the sessions. I'm sure it must have planted a lot of seeds, and probably a lot of people, started skating after meeting with all of you. It must have been a very inspiring thing to witness.
I mean, I hope so. Like, I can only hope so, I tried my best, but...
So I just wanted to quote you from this interview that you gave about 2 years ago. You said something that I thought was interesting, and I wanted to ask you to maybe develop a bit on it. But you said that in Bangalore, parents send their girls to skate parks easily, but they may not want them to stay outside for long hours. And without practice, they can't make progress in the sport. On the other hand, in Januar, we had to go door to door to convince, actually beg the parents to send their girls to the skate park, which is just down the road in their own village. I thought that was interesting, like the contrast between those two situations, but that basically all that says is that it's very challenging for young children and probably even more for young girls to start skating in India. And so I was wondering has that kind of become easier today compared to when you started 10 years ago, or do you feel like it's not changed all that much?
Oh, I think it's changed a lot since I started, because now there are so many more skate parks. Although being such a large country with such a large population, the amount of skate parks we have and skate spots just in general we have is like, it's so small compared to like how big the country is. So it's still very inaccessible. And the few skate parks that do exist are like quite expensive to use, because you have to pay to use it per hour. There are no like government facilities that they give it for free, where you can just use the space for free. So yeah, even affects a lot of my work that I do with Girls Skate India, because we don't have any free to use public skate spaces where I can just say, oh, I want to do a regular weekly like sort of workshop sessions. Like I can't even do that, because I need to rent the skate park, and that's not cheap, to rent it all for yourself, to throw an event and like do all these workshops and things like that. And yeah, it's also like not many people can afford to just sort of like leave their whatever they're doing and come and do, free workshops for people. Like it's just not something everybody can do. So in the end, it's like, just me basically organizing all these things by myself, and then like I get lucky sometimes and they're like few people that come and help out, like my friends or some of the girl skaters already in Bangalore. Like luckily I've had like a lot of help and support from them, to make all these workshops possible. And mostly because I used to have Vans as my sponsor, and they used to just like give me money to sort of do whatever I wanted, like in terms of like workshops or like, building spots. And yeah, so that was a huge help for me, like to be able to do all the things that I did.
Is that over, the Vans like a sponsorship or partnership that you had? Are you not working with them anymore?
I mean, I hate to say it, but like, yeah, I'm not sure about this new, because Vans actually in India at least got bought over by a different company.
Okay.
So the people that I used to work with, we used to have a different relationship completely, and we worked together for years. So like we kind of built that relationship to what it was, and it was like a really fine working relationship. But then once it got bought over and like the management changed, their priorities also changed, and they're not really that committed towards supporting skateboarding and skateboarders, unfortunately.
Oh,
at the
okay.
moment.
Yeah, that's too bad.
So like I think they still seed few people some shoes every now and then, but I don't know where I stand with them, because we haven't had any kind of relationship for the last few years, like since before the pandemic, since they got bought over basically.
Oh, okay. So it's this buyover rather than COVID that kind of impacted the whole relationship?
Yeah, because I mean, I had the relationship also with the new team. Like, they really wanted me to be part of, like, structuring, like, how they would go about supporting the skate scene in India and things like that. But when I went to Goa and, like, COVID hit and I just got stuck over there and there was nothing to skate over there, I kind of started surfing a bit more than I was skating for that period of time. So, yeah, I guess the relationship with them kind of fizzled out as well. But
okay.
Yeah, I'm hoping to restart something up, but yeah, they're not so much focused on trying to support skateboarding, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a bummer, yeah.
Yeah.
You did like a little Vans piece with Lizzie Armanto, who came to India, I believe, right?
Yeah, that was a global campaign, so I was working with Vans US on that.
Yeah. That must have been fun to like meet with her and skate with her, and at least in the commercial that I saw, it looked like it was a fun experience. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Lizzie's just like, she's somebody I sort of like. When I started skating, I was watching her videos and like watching her progress over the years, and then one day she came all the way to Bangalore to visit me, so it was unreal a bit, but it was also super cool, and like we had some fun for sure, like with the girls in the workshop, and yeah, just talking about like things. And yeah, she's super fun. She's a good friend.
So I'm jumping to kind of another subject, and that's a bit farther down the road, but I saw that you went to Pushing Boarders in Malmö in 2019, like a year before the pandemic. And I was just wondering if you could like tell me how much you enjoyed this whole event. And you also participated in a talk over there. It was called Globally Stoked Grassroots Skateboarding, and it was basically a talk with a lot of people that run skate NGOs. Basically, like there was Aram from SkatePal, Ruby and Will from Free Movement in Athens. There was, I don't remember his name, but this guy from Skatistan in South Africa, I believe, and Layla from an NGO in Peru, I think. So yeah, I was just wondering, like, how did you enjoy the whole event, and particularly this talk about like skate NGOs?
Pushing Boarders was one of the best events ever. Like, honestly, it was so stimulating. Like, I left from there with so many thoughts and like so much material in my brain, and needed like so much time to process everything that was spoken about. But it just made me so happy, because I was like, oh, that's really cool that finally, like, people are having these kind of conversations, and like we're being open about it, we're bringing it to the table, we're having these like difficult conversations. friends and were participating in it, and like, you know, all kinds of people. So it was just magical. I was like really like super happy that it was happening. I was like, what a time to be alive, you know, and what a time in skateboarding for like these kind of conversations to take place.
For sure.
Finally. And yeah, being on the panel with all these other guys from like all these other organizations was so amazing, because like I got to hear about their stories and, you know, like how they grew up and like how things are for them in their countries. And like it was just a great exposure, and like made some really good friends. And yeah, it was really great. I would go back and do it all over again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, hopefully there will be more. Like I don't know if you met with him when you were in Pushing Boarders, but this American pro skater Ryan Lay just recently did an event kind of similar to Pushing Boarders in the States, in Arizona. It was called Slow Impact, I believe. It was kind of the same format with, you know, panels and like skate sessions and workshops and stuff like that. But it was very US centric. I don't think there were many like people from outside of the States. Whereas in Pushing Boarders, there were people from all over, which I found was an interesting take on it.
Definitely, yeah, it is a quite interesting take on it, because everything you usually see is quite American centric, you know. So it was nice to have that space to like, you know, just talk about like other things as well, and like have other perspectives from different parts of the world, you know, like also be a part of like something like that. It was really cool.
And so actually during the talk, you said something that I found was interesting. You said, I feel like skateboarding is not really seen as something for boys yet in India because it's still very new and nobody really knows what context to put it in. I was wondering if you feel like it's still that way, or if it has changed a lot since 2019 when you said that at Pushing Boarders.
Yeah, I remember saying that actually in the beginning, because I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, because when I would talk to like the volunteers that came from outside India, and you know, they would say things like, oh, it's such a male thing in the West and things like that. I kind of like saw how people here didn't really look at it like it was like a boys' sport or something. But just in general, you know, like just being outside, like especially for like people who come from like less progressive, more traditional, underprivileged backgrounds, like just being outside, jumping around, and like, you know, being like as a woman, as a girl, being outside is already like, it's not seen as like feminine to like be outside in the sun and doing stuff on a skateboard and like, you know, things like that. But at the same time, it's not really like looked at as like a boys' sport either, because they don't know what it is yet. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Which I find interesting, because obviously in Europe and in the States, it's still very much perceived. Well, it's changing, of course, but it used to be very perceived as a male-dominated activity or sport, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting that in countries like India, and I've heard this from other people that, you know, have started similar initiatives as yours in other countries where skateboarding was not very present yet. Like, for example, in Afghanistan, I think when Skatistan started out there, since skateboarding was like pretty much didn't exist there yet, it wasn't like considered something just for boys. So a lot of girls were starting to skate and were actually getting much better than the boys. And I thought that was really interesting. And I was wondering if in India it was kind of the same, but I guess it's obviously very different. But yeah.
I mean, it is kind of the same, but we, like in Skatistan, I remember, like, you know, the girls couldn't ride bicycles or something, but they didn't have that rule with skateboarding because it didn't exist until then. So
yeah,
that's so cool. But yeah, no, we don't have anything like that. But for example, like I'll tell you, like when my mom was a kid, like in her house, they would buy the boys. She grew up with two brothers. So they would buy like any festival or like, you know, any celebration or anything, like where, you know, you want to buy something new for your kids. The boys would get like bicycles and she wouldn't get one. Like even though she wanted one, she would get like jewelry or something instead, you know. So like it's just not really encouraged for girls to just like play and do physical activities and like things like that. So, you know, even when we were doing classes with the underprivileged girls, like when that Make Life Skate Park was built, a few of the girls like were coming out and they were like skating and they were doing all this, but then, you know, they would have to leave earlier and they would not be able to come out some days, but then their brothers would be there, you know. So I would just be like, what's happening? And the answer you usually get is, oh, she has to be at home to take care of the younger siblings, or she has to be at home to finish all the housework, you know, because parents are like working outside. And then they leave their like, you know, minor girls in charge of all this housework and taking care of the younger siblings and all of that. So while they're busy doing that and can't come skateboard, their brothers are like enjoying themselves and like going skating and like spending so much time at the park. So it's just like, yeah, so with skateboarding particularly, it's not looked at as like a male thing, but just in general, being active and having that luxury of time and like being allowed to play outside and do all these things is not afforded to many girls over here.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering, like, if you could tell me what you've been doing in more recent times. I saw that you're like giving skateboarding lessons at a youth hostel skate park in Goa, I believe. So yeah, what have you been up to in the last few years?
So basically, like, that's a difficult one actually, because like I've not been doing as much as I used to be doing, I guess, because lots of things have changed, and like after the pandemic especially, things have just like sort of like become a lot harder and like slowed down for me in terms of like putting on all these events and workshops. But I did do like a little tour. I did a workshop and a tour recently in last December in Bangalore. I was able to put on a workshop and also go on a little tour because of funding I got from doing an episode with Madars and Skate Tales.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that was amazing. A few girls came to the workshop and these guys had gotten like donation gifts and things like that so we could give away. So the girls got some skateboards and some like other kinds of like just equipment and gear, and then we went on a little tour to Mysore, skated some street spots, and that was like incredible because I hadn't even like gotten the chance to meet them. Like I had met two of them before out of the 5-6 people that was on tour. So I met the other ones for the first time, and these girls just recently started skating during like pandemic, when the pandemic started. So we hadn't really met each other yet, so I was just like really excited and like anticipating how it would go, and it was just amazing, like more than what I could even like imagine, you know, because I basically saw how they were supporting each other and just like, you know, being friends with each other, going skating together and just like, you know, doing all these things and like messing around. And it was just like amazing to see that they at least have that, you know, because like that was one of my dreams for myself that I like even started like Girl Skate India for. So it was quite special to just be around that presence and just to know that at least the next generation has that, you know, maybe that sort of, what do you say, sisterhood or camaraderie or...
Sure.
Yeah, so like it was special to see that. And even though I haven't like found that yet for myself, it was just nice to know that it exists, at least for other girls out there, you know, in the country, and they don't have to go through the same stuff maybe that I did. And like, you know, I feel like the younger generation, it's more normalized also now to be like a skateboarder in general, like not just girl or boy, but like in general, like there's so much more skateboarding and like, you know, for them it's more normal. So it's cool to see that it's happening, you know. It's a little bittersweet because, like, I kind of wanted that for myself.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, at least it's happening, so I'm happy.
Yeah, and it's happening thanks to you and people like you who have, you know, put in the effort and the work to spread the word and motivate people and inspire. And so, yeah, you've definitely been a huge contribution in that regard. So you can just be proud of yourself, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, of course. And so I was wondering, like, who are some like current Indian skaters that the world should keep an eye on? I know that you're not necessarily super interested in like the whole competition side of skating, but are there like some skaters around you? Not necessarily people that will, you know, go to the Olympics or to Street League or whatever, but just skaters from India right now that are, you know, killing it and that the world should know about. Are there people that come to mind?
I'm actually quite bad with the new generation of skaters, like, to be honest. I don't really know so many names.
Or are there people like around you, not necessarily like, you know, just friends of yours that you find super like talented and that people should check out on Instagram or something?
Yeah, I think people should definitely check out Rahul because he's one of my favorite skaters. Like, he's got the best style, like, and I just love watching him skate. And I just love who he is as a person. He's super motivated, super dedicated, but like also really nice guy, you know. So yeah, I think people should check out Rahul. His Instagram is Rahul_skate, like SK8, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
He's a skater from Kovalam Skate Club.
Right.
So when I met him, like, he hadn't even started skating yet, you know. So just to see how far he's come now is like, it's quite cool.
Cool.
Who else? And then actually, like, the girls right now that are killing it, like, it's also another girl from the Kovalam Skate Club, actually. Her name is Vidya, and I think her Instagram is Vidya Skate or something. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
Pardon me.
Yeah, I'll look into it, yeah.
But yeah, she's really good. She's ripping and she's doing some really gnarly stuff that, like, even I haven't done yet. So yeah, I think these two are like killing it. But yeah, there's a lot more as well. But I think these two, you should check them out.
I will, absolutely.
And then there's like a bunch of skaters from Mumbai also, like all the girls that are skating in Mumbai, they're also like, you know, they're also quite talented and like growing, and like they just went to Dubai, I think, recently.
Oh yeah. There was an event over there. I don't remember for what, but yeah.
Yeah, like a world skate event or something.
Right.
So they went for that. But yeah, it's really like contest skating. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing it, but it's not really, there's no incentive to do it because even if you win it, there's no prize money in it. There's no equipment that you get. There's like hardly any reason for me to do it in a way. You know?
Yeah. And also I feel like you've come up with, you know, building spots with organizations like Make Life, Skate Life, stuff like that. So
yeah,
probably like contest skating is kind of a different mentality or approach of skating.
Yeah, definitely. Like when I started skating, it was like one thing that I didn't have to compete in, and I just felt so free doing that and being in that space that it just kind of like became my thing to not compete in. Because as I said earlier, I was in all these sports and like, you know, my coaches would just push me so hard so that I can go and compete in all these like big contests, and I hated that, honestly. So when I found skating, I was like, oh, nice, you know. But yeah, it's not really a competitive thing for me. It's just more like an expressional thing.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah.
So what are like some of your upcoming projects? You're giving these skate classes in Goa. Do you have anything else you're working on, or what are you up to?
Yeah, at the moment there's like a skate park being built in my neighborhood actually. So it's quite special because like I've been wanting to live in Goa for some time now, but like the reason like it hasn't been so easy for me to be here is because there's no skate parks or spots or scenes that much. There's a few, but not that much. So yeah, it's like kind of like a dream come true, like having this spot just in the neighborhood. So I've just been going and helping out like in the evenings and like, you know, putting in a little work over there. But apart from that, I kind of want to do some more tours and workshops and things like that, but it's really difficult to do those things without like having any sort of support, like, you know, like how I had backing financially from like my sponsors before to do all these things.
Yeah.
Without that, it's really difficult. So I have, you know, bills to pay and like things like that to take care of, and like, you know, I just can't do like so much for free anymore. That's what I've realized, unfortunately. I've got to find some kind of way to like,
Yeah, keep some time to, you know, get involved in projects like these. But yeah, of course, as you said, you need to make a living, and yeah, it's hard to juggle everything, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's also very difficult to do, like, first of all, with skateboarding, it's such a small thing, so it's not like, you have a bunch of companies that are willing to just support and throw money on it. It's not so easy to do that. It's possible, but, like, yeah, I haven't quite planned out anything yet, to be honest. I'm just trying to figure out my own life at the moment and, like,
For
get
sure,
back.
yeah. Well, that's the most important thing. Take care of yourself first, and then take care of others, I guess.
Yeah, because I feel like I kind of burnt myself out over these years, like doing like all these things and just trying to like give so much and like, and I got back a lot as well. Like it's not like I just gave,
of course.
Like I got back so much beautiful things that I could never even imagine, so I'm super grateful. But at the same time, like I also feel like I'm getting older now and I have more responsibilities and like I just have to figure out like life and stuff first.
Yeah, find a good balance.
Yeah, exactly. And then when I'm feeling a bit more comfortable with that, then like I really like I always want to do things with skateboarding and like I would love to do more workshops and tours and like take more classes and things like that. But it's not so easy. Like even with the youth hostel skate lessons that I'm trying to start up actually because it's not really a thing here yet. Like it is sort of like a small scene already, but there's not so many people that are like even like inquiring about them or like coming. So it seems monumental sometimes, like because you just have to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for the last decade, so it gets a little tiring after some time when you have to push so much by yourself,
Yeah. Well, hopefully more and more people will get involved and the community will keep growing and it will reach a point where you won't have to do everything yourself and you can rely on other people to help you and keep developing it on their own and everything.
Yeah, definitely. Like that would be amazing, honestly. But like, yeah, even for this, you kind of need a team. You can't do everything by yourself, is what I've realized. Doing
sure.
a lot by myself already. So I mean, I don't know. I'm trying my best, but let's see. It's like also this pandemic and like like personal things that have happened have kind of just taken a toll. But I'm slowly like getting back on my feet with this, and like just like having that opportunity to go on tour with the girls last December because of the Skate Tales episode and like just doing that workshop again, it just made me feel so much like I just felt good again.
Yeah. When is this Skate Tales episode coming out? Do you know? Or
I think it should be out soon. I think like maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll check it out for sure. It must have been fun to... Yeah, so you met with Madars Apse. I'm not sure how to say his name, but...
Yeah, I think Americans say like that. Madars Apse.
Yeah.
It was great having him over, and then also Kristen Ebling came from Skate Like a Girl.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing to have her over there because, like, she knows how to do all these things already, and she's like super.
Yeah.
This is like her line of work as well, like doing workshops and like working with girls and like all of this stuff. So it was so great to have her around because she like did so much cool stuff for the workshop, and like she would just like throw in a bunch of these like cool ways of doing things and just like like giving me all these ideas. It was just amazing like to have her around. Like I picked her brain a lot and just like like she shared like some cool things with me that I will also use in my like future workshops and things like that. So it was amazing.
Yeah, that's rad.
And also just like to have her around, it was unreal because as I said, like I found whatever she was talking about, like about the boys club and about like starting your own thing and like, nobody will care as much as we care for like female skateboarding, so it's like up to us to do the work and like bring us to a certain place where, we can be seen as valuable as the others, So it was great having her around, because I was like, oh my gosh, like it's you. Like I remember reading what you wrote like all these years ago, and but I met her also at Pushing Boarders and stuff.
Oh yeah,
like,
right, she was there as well.
Yeah, but like this time we got together was amazing because we could just sit and like talk about all these kind of things, and like it was just very inspiring. Yeah, for sure.
So we're going to wrap it up pretty soon. I usually finish with like some friends questions that I'm going to surprise you with in a second.
Okay, sweet.
And I just have one last question for myself that I usually ask all the guests, and it's basically, what's the most valuable lesson you feel you've learned thanks to skateboarding?
Most valuable lesson. Oof, that's a hard one because there's so many of them. I mean, I think like to not take yourself too seriously, I guess.
Yeah, interesting.
And just like, yeah, just like keep play alive, you know.
The importance of playing and having fun.
Yeah, definitely. I guess like both of those reasons, you know, just like not taking things too seriously also, because in the end of the day it's just a piece of wood with like wheels on it, so
Yeah, absolutely. It's not that serious.
yeah, and like life is pretty much similar, like you don't have to take yourself that seriously either, you know.
So I have friends' questions, as I told you.
Okay.
I'm going to have you listen to this first one.
Okay, so I guess my question for Ati is, if you could tell us a story, like, I don't know, a time when just one of the most memorable, like, wholesome, I guess, skate moments from your travels across India, because I know that, like, from traveling with you around there, there's just been some incredible occasions where, like, locals have joined in, or they've, like, let you skate a certain spot. Yeah, give us an example of one or two of those. But I bet there's, like, 100, because it's just the best out there.
That's Helena Long from the UK.
Oh, okay, amazing. Sweet. Yeah, so Helena was on the second girls tour that I did, which I really regret now not having a filmer for. I couldn't find one, unfortunately, but yeah, she was there. She was repping it up in India, being the inspiration that she is. But okay, so I have a few, definitely, like she says, but I think I've spoken about the previous ones already, so I'll talk to you about the latest one that happened.
Yeah, please.
So when we went on this tour, you know, with the girls, and Madars also came with on this when we were filming for the Skate Tales episode, we hit up this one spot in Mysore, and it was actually like, so just in India, like there aren't really those many spots, you know, so it's like quite a mission. Like my friend went on recce and he found it actually, and like he took us over there. It was in a temple. So, like, usually you can't really skate temples or, like, do things like that. But I don't know, these people are quite open with just, like, letting us. There was, like, this bank in the entrance of the temple, and, like, they just let us skate it for, like, a long time. It was more like a place of marriage. So, like, a wedding, like an altar kind of place. But, like, usually it comes with a little temple in India. So yeah, so they let us skate that, and then it was a program going on for this one girl who, like, so in India sometimes, like a lot of times actually, like they'll have these ceremonies for when you come of age.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so like puberty ceremony basically for girls, so that people know they're like mature and like ready to, I guess, get married. I don't know. So yeah, there was like one of these programs happening, and there were like a bunch of people there, and we were skating, and then eventually slowly like they kind of like started skating also, and like we just like in the end there were like priests on skateboards, and like, you know, like all these women dressed up in like fancy saris, and like all these like little girls and like boys, and everybody joined in, and they were all having so much fun, and like we were just pushing them around on the skateboards, and they had so much fun. They asked us to just stay, and like then they ended up feeding us, and like, you know, it was just really bizarre because like that's just never happened before, I think, in India. People like skateboarders crashing a coming of age ceremony, and then in the end like getting to like, you know,
invited to the party. Yeah.
Basically getting fed and everything. It was so cool. It was such magic.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So that was super cool, like very unexpected, because I thought we were honestly like gonna be able to skate there for 10 minutes and then get kicked out, you know, but then in the end like it was a whole opposite thing that happened, and they were like taking all of our Insta accounts and like just like, oh, like, you know, we will come to your skateboarding like stuff in Bangalore, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like,
wow, yeah.
So cool.
So you guys were filming for this Skate Tales episode, so I assume there might be some footage of all this in the future episode?
Yeah, you'll be able to see it when it comes out. Yeah, so it gives you a little bit more of an idea, because you have to understand also these people, like, they probably have never seen a skateboard in their life, you know?
Probably, yeah.
And then just boom, like they're just getting up on it. And there was this one lady and she had so much mojo and she was just like sending everybody to the side, like it's my turn, you know. She just gets up on it and goes. It was just amazing to see. Like,
yeah, very cool. Okay, let's do the next question. This one is from, well, you mentioned her, we talked about her, Kristen Ebeling, whom I interviewed not too long ago.
Yeah.
So she said, what is something that makes skateboarding more challenging in India compared to other parts of the world? Are there things other skate scenes take for granted?
I don't know, actually. I don't know if you guys take it for granted as such, because I feel like skateboarders are like just really like hard-working, gritty, like people in general.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to say like what, you know, like you guys in the West would take for advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's just a whole different world. What's normalized for you. Like when I was in the States visiting,
mm-hmm.
you know, like I would go on like trips, like skate sessions with like my friends from like there, and they would just sort of hit up one spot for warm up, and then you have like 4 or 5 other spots like on the list that you can just go around in like one day and session all these places because they're all so close by to each other. And like, you know, a bunch of their friends have like backyard like bowls, or like, you know, it's just so much accessibility. The streets are so like nice to skate on, like you can just cruise around, like, you know, it's just like there's so much accessibility to skateboarding that it just like gives you so much more exposure to like doing it, and like, you know, that much more time spent on your board, because like you can just go cruise down to the shop and just get something on your board, and then you get to skate different kind of like terrains as well, like, you know, so you're just like you get better faster that way, I think. So
accessibility, yeah, for sure. No, that's definitely something that is taken for granted in Europe and in the States. It must be a trip to come from India and see all these skate parks all over. And
yeah, that was one of my favorite things to do, actually, is like whenever I get the opportunity to go outside to Europe or America, it's just like pushing on the streets is like one of my favorite things to do. Because you can't really do that over here without, like, you know, running into, like, potholes or ditches or, like, whatever, like, big stones or, like, crazy obstacles. Just crusty-ass streets, you know, that are not so fun. Yeah, just, like, random things.
Okay, this next question, this is from, her name is Sarah Houston.
Ah, okay.
So here's her question. She said, India's skate culture has always been very DIY, and I'm curious if the Olympics has changed that at all, with, for example, more government support and funding for parks or different perception of skateboarding in the wider community. And if there has been a change, do you think it is positive or negative?
Interesting question. I think she's saying this maybe because she gets the idea that it's DIY, because the first generation of skateboarders like me and Abhishek from Holystoked and like a bunch of Darius and all these other guys, like when we started skating there was nothing going on, like, so you kind of had to make it happen if you wanted to see it happen, and we were a bunch of stoked people, like just like super stoked about this new thing in our lives, and like, you know, we wanted to see something happen with it. So like if you want a spot, you kind of have to build it yourself, you know, and I can't wait for the government to come and like put a spot in your city. Is like just not gonna happen. Like you have to go to the government and you have to ask them, you have to do all this work. So like it has been quite DIY because of the first generation of skateboarders, and I think that's the image that like the world has seen from us so far. Because all these, as I said, you know, like the younger generation, just like of girls especially, like they just started skating during the pandemic, you know. So I think the change has definitely, like I can see it for sure, like from the generations that started like before, and then the new younger generations are like way more focused on contests and street league and like all this kind of like, you know, just more street skating. And like even if you see like the trick selection or like style of skateboarding from the first generation skaters, like where like more like they like skating transition in. And like, you know, chick selection is a bit more old school as well. And like, yeah, it's just for them, for the younger ones, it's like, you know, they just sort of grew up. They started with like already it being way more normalized than it was for us. So, you know, it's kind of funny actually, because, you know, they'll like, you know, just like be like, oh, build a skate park in to the 100 ramps guys or whatever, you know. They'll be like, oh, build a skate park in our city. And like, you know, it's like they don't like choose those things, you know, just like they're not going around selecting like spots to build something on, you know. It's
of
just
course,
like,
yeah.
So it definitely changed something, because now it's like all about trying to be in these contests and like, you know, try to go to these world skate events and, you know, be recognized in that way, so you can finally be like the champion of your country or whatever, you know. And I'm not condemning that, because like, you know, that is like how our society in general like sees stuff as legitimate only once it's like been, you know, especially in India, like contests are something that like that's like the first question I will get asked. For example, if somebody wants to know more about me and my skateboarding, and they'll be like, so what's it like skateboarding in India? And like the second question is like, oh, are there any contests for it? Like, you know, because that's the only thing in their head that like, you know, is worth, like, otherwise why do you spend all this time going skating when you know there's nothing that comes out of it in the end? Like, they think it's bizarre, you know. So
I think that divide between core skaters, so to speak, and more sports-driven athletic skaters is a trend that's happening worldwide with the Olympics and Street League and all the contests happening. But yeah, it's interesting.
Definitely. And honestly, the younger generations, like a lot of them, like they haven't been exposed to all the things that we have and seen like all the different sides of this culture, you know. So for them, it's kind of like their only shot at it in a way. So I can't even blame them, because for them, it's like that's the only way. Like they win a medal. Like one of the girls, for example, who came on tour with me last December, like she had to run away from her home because they weren't like supporting her skateboarding and stuff. And she had to run away, move to a different city, and then she like ended up going for one of these national level contests that like, you know, is affiliated with World Skate, and she won some medal over there. And then after she won that medal, her uncle sort of like tried to like, you know, start the conversation in the family and make it like it's okay for her to do it because now she won a medal and there's like something, you know,
honorable about
happening.
it.
Yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, it's like it's easy for us, you know, like core skaters, like you said, to, you know, be judgmental towards like these other skaters. But at the same time, like I see like for them, there's not so much of a chance to make it in any other way, because it's not like, you know, we have a bunch of money in skateboarding in India, and like there's not so much sponsorships going on where you actually get like supported financially and like all of this. So like one of the girls, for example, was telling me, you know, with this certificate that I won at the contest, now I can sort of apply for like government jobs and things like that, you know. I think that really helps like a lot of these folk, you know, who come from less privileged backgrounds.
Okay, so the next one from Lisa Jacob. So she said, what is the biggest challenge overcoming gender equality in India? And what is your best achievement in that field or small victories towards this? How much has skateboarding played a part in this journey?
Oh, wow. Trust Lisa with the deep question.
It is a pretty deep one, yeah.
I mean, I think like I said earlier, you know, like just having this whole, like what I've envisioned up for myself even, or for like other girls to have, because if everybody has it, I have it, and if I have it, everybody has it kind of, you know. So just like having that like skate crew, like, you know, like those people, like in those homies that you can just like, you know, go skate with, and like they'll just like include you in things and you can do things together, and they kind of understand like what it's like being like, you know, one of the only female skaters, and like blah, blah, blah. Like being able to see that in real life and like see how these girls actually support each other and like, you know, skate with each other, and like now they're all like, you know, after this trip we did with Madars, then like, you know, now they've started like doing their own workshops and stuff back home after they came to the one that I did in Bangalore. Now they've gone back and they've started like, you know, started their own pages of like skateboarding in Mumbai, skateboarding skateboarding in Hyderabad, and like, they're starting to do workshops with the girls over there, and like, so I already feel like looking at this, I'm already like, wow, so like it's happening, like, whether I'm doing it or not, it's happening, so
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a win in terms of that. And like also just like it's just more normal. So like if I see how the guys and the girls are now, and how it's just more normalized to be a girl skater, so it's not like they don't have to fight as hard, like, and they just have that much more support, and like, because it was very different 10 years ago versus now. So just seeing all of this, and yeah, it just makes me feel like something's definitely changed in a good way, for sure. So I would consider those things like as wins, in terms of gender equality and things like that, because there are so many more girls now, and like there's a contest in Bangalore that happens every year, and like there's still not equal prize money that goes around for that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't participate as well, because like I tried to change that and try to make it like that it was equal, but then I got pushed back for that, so I was just kind of like, no, I'm not interested in taking part in this,
Yeah, that sucks.
I hope that it changes in the future, and like, just if that would happen, and yeah, I would consider that kind of stuff also like a win, because everything is economic in the end, so like as long as we have equal opportunity, then it's gonna be a win for sure. Slow steps, like she says, there's not like one big thing that I can say, but just the fact that, come on, like, has this like even happened anywhere else in the world, like that a girl gets sponsored first by like a company like Vans, for example? It hasn't happened, but it happened in India. So for me, that's a big thing,
Absolutely. So this next question is audio.
Hey Atita, how are you? I miss you. The question is, what was the most thing that you remember or you admired in Pushing Boarders Malmö? Wish you all the best. Shred on. Bye.
Oh my gosh, is that Aram?
Yes, Aram.
Oh, nice to hear from him. It's been so long.
Yeah, Aram Saba from Ramallah in Palestine.
Yeah, I miss him too. I think the whole build that we did together, because like our panel got to work on a DIY while we were there.
Oh yeah?
So before, like a week before the program started, we already like got there and like we started working on that DIY.
Oh, nice.
Called the pig barrier spot, and yeah, that was my highlight, I think, because it was just so nice to just spend time with like all these other skaters and builders from all around, and just like get to know them better before like we went and did that discussion, that we did finally at the Pushing Boarders. So I think the build, the whole build, it was just so much fun. Yeah, it was just great. I think that was my highlight for sure.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there was also this, like, really funny night, one of the nights where we all, like, ended up just, like, sessioning this little Wally kind of thing that this guy from Belgium, Hank is his name? I'm not sure. He brought out, like, Wallies, not walls, basically, like, a little wall ride with Trump's face on it, and everybody was just, like, sessioning that, and it was just
amazing.
Super funny, because he had, like, I think he had, like, these little T-Rex arms as well that would, like, kind of shake when you would like get on him or something, so it was just so funny.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I didn't know you guys did a build a week before the whole event at Pushing Boarders.
Yeah, I don't know, it was so nice. Like, it was just our panel that got to do that.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just amazing, like just spending time with like all the panelists before getting to know each other and like making that connection already, like, before we just got on stage together. It was just, it was so nice. It was neat. It was a great experience.
Cool.
And just like building, and like I love building in different locations, so it's just cool to be out in Malmö and like build a DIY over there, like leave your mark, like it's quite cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this one is from Ruby Mateja, who was hosting the panel that you just mentioned at Pushing Boarders, and she co-founded Free Movement Skateboarding in Athens with Will Ascot. So she said, "Hey Atita, since I saw that you were also recovering from an injury recently, I wondered if you'd share something that the rehabilitation process has taught you, and whether it changed your connection with your body somehow. It is such a common occurrence for us skaters, and I feel like everyone's recovery process is so unique and usually teaches us a lot. I hope you're back to full strength, and I wish you all the best."
Oh, thank you, Ruby. I have actually recovered from that, but like it's a lifetime sort of, I hate to say the word, but deformity. Because
Okay.
like it's never gonna go back to normal. My surgeon was just like, you gotta make peace with this little pinky. Yeah, it's never gonna be straight, or like, I still can't even like clench my whole fist yet. I mean, I don't think it's ever gonna happen, but.
So it's on your fingers?
Yeah, my pinky finger. I smashed it into 3 pieces basically, and then they had to like do surgery on me and then like build like a little scaffolding around it to support it like heal.
Okay.
So like yeah, that was like half a year ago, a bit more. So like the bones and stuff have healed, but it's just kind of healed like my pinky kind of looks like a kicker actually if you look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like one of the hardest times of late because I was not able to do anything. I was just sitting in my whole room for a whole month almost because I had these pins in them and like they would just start to hurt like if I'd go out for more than like 1-2 hours,
Oh, yeah.
and then I'd need to go back home and just like rest them on a pillow and like just like take my, it was really difficult.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
But what has it taught me? I mean, one, it's changed my relationship with my body definitely because I have to do things differently now. Like I can't use my left hand in the same way anymore. Like I kind of had to relearn everything from scratch, and that was like a very challenging thing to go through, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, but like kind of has made me a little bit more scared in a way. I hate that though. So I think it's like an ongoing thing, I just have to like
live with it.
Yeah, I just have to like get over that fear and like just kind of not let it become a hindrance or an obstacle, So
Sure.
Initially, when I just started skating again, like I wasn't even like doing so many of the things that I used to be doing because I just didn't want to fall on it again,
Oh, yeah.
Because I just spent the last 6 months just like recovering from it and like going in and out of hospitals and then all this like, physiotherapy, and it was just the most painful experience I think I've had. So, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely changed some things, but I don't know if it's for the positive, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's still quite fresh, so maybe in a few years from now, when you think about it, maybe you will have, discovered things that have helped you or...
It makes me actually quite uneasy, this finger, because like it feels like it's stuck. Like, so it doesn't feel relaxed. It's kind of like always in pain.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like fun for sure.
No.
Are you still seeing many doctors nowadays to take care of it, or is it kind of done and dealt with at this point?
I mean, I had my last, I kind of have to go soon for another checkup, but like it's almost done and dealt with, and like he's just like, my surgeon is just like, you kind of, it's just gonna be like this, you have to make peace with it. You can make it a little bit better if you keep like working on it, but it's never gonna be the same again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've had to make my peace with that a little bit, but it's also like it takes like at least 20 minutes of my day every day, because I have to keep doing my exercises for it to like strengthen the muscles around over there. And just like the whole day I'm pretty much like fiddling with it, fidgeting with it, moving it, bending it, like doing all kinds of stuff to it, and it's not even like conscious anymore. It's just like I just do it like,
yeah, it's part of your routine.
Yeah, and it's like subconsciously, like I'll just find myself just like fidgeting with it the whole day because it feels like it needs to move. Otherwise, it just gets really stiff and it starts hurting and things like that. So
yeah,
it's kind of like, I think it's just something I have to work with. I don't know for how long, but yeah,
for sure.
It's just...
No, but I think a lot of people go through injuries like that and never fully get back to where they were before with whatever part of the body that it's involved or injured.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, there's a part of like acceptance, and you need to just accept that that's how it is now, and you have to kind of compose with it.
Absolutely. And it like makes me so appreciative of like the times that I can skate, because it was really hard not being able to skate for so long, and like, just makes me super happy that I can skate again, and like,
yeah.
It could be worse,
Of course, it can always
way
be
worse.
Of course. So this one is from Dani Abulhaba from SkatePal. She said, I'd like to know who has inspired and motivated the work you do around skateboarding in India. Not necessarily a skateboarder, but anyone at all.
Who inspires the work that I do? I don't know, I feel like for me, like they say, you know, like something like whatever bothers you, you kind of have to pay attention to in a way, because it's like a message trying to tell you like what you find okay and what you don't in the world. So I think like from when I started, like, you know, this whole Girls Skate India and just like women, upliftment, and like all of this stuff came, like has a lot to do with like my mom, I think, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up with a single mother and like not having like a dad around, and like just also like when he was around, it was just like, you know, he was alcoholic and he was violent, and like so it was just like I just seen like how, and like also like they come from different religious backgrounds, which is like a huge thing in India. Because people usually like don't mix so much outside of their communities. So like he was a Christian, she was a Hindu, and like they didn't like accept that she was Hindu. So like there was loads of problems with that, and like, you know, just I don't know, I think I just like saw a lot how difficult it is to be a woman over here, and like got exposed to that from such a young age that like it really like made me angry, you know, and like it bothered me. So I had that drive and that fire and that fuel to sort of like do something to change it in a way. Yeah, and like it might not have anything to do with skateboarding, but like I kind of just used skateboarding as a tool in a way to change like gender inequality, or try to change it at least.
Yeah, skateboarding is kind of just the medium, but yeah, it's for a bigger purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, this next one is an audio one.
Hi, Quentin. So, just off the top of my head, my question for the incredibly awesome, amazing Atita Verghese is, what is a local way that we can care for our planet? So, something in skateboarding or just in everyday life, one of those everyday things that we can do at a local scale that has an impact for our planet in general, and how to care for our environment. Thank you. Bye.
This is Indigo Willing.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Who's from Australia, I believe, and she did an interview with you not too long ago about how to impact positively the planet.
Yeah. I remember that. I honestly like believe that global warming is not caused by small things like leaving this fan or light on, you know, like it's like way bigger than like one or two individuals and how they live their lives. I think it's like a whole structural thing that needs to change, like, you know, like, and I don't think we as like individuals can really do that much. I think it's like more up to like big corporations and big government to like use resources and things like that wisely enough to change something about it, because I don't think individuals can really do much to contribute towards that. And honestly, like even in that article, like I even said it was difficult for me to write about skateboarding and environmentalism in the same subject, because I almost feel like, I mean, I hate to say it, but skateboarding is not very environmentally friendly at all, like from any angle.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I read your part in there, and I agree 100% with what you said. Yeah, that it pollutes a lot basically to skate. Like it's a lot of products, a lot of...
I mean, at the same time, I wouldn't say a lot, because there's not so many of it, at least in India.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, I mean, on a global scale, I don't know, there's not so many skateboarders also in the world, you know, for us to be, like, one of the biggest, carbon emitters. Yeah. But at the same time, it's also, like, really difficult, like, for some things. That's why my logic is, like, you know, where we've already figured out things like, you know, mud houses, and like, you know, different kinds of like ways to build houses basically that are like way more sustainable than using the traditional like concrete and bricks and whatever, you know. Like we've already figured all that out, so why not we just change our whole cities into like more eco-sustainable like kind of materials. And then for like activities like skateboarding, for example, which you cannot use anything else for, then kind of make like compensations, you know, like okay, here we use concrete, or like, you know, that would be a very skate friendly world to live in. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a solution for this. It's like it's so much bigger than one or two people, you know, like we all have to like be on the same page with this, and like I don't know when if that's ever gonna happen.
But Well, I guess there are things that we can do individually, but as you said, it's not like it has a huge impact. Obviously, bigger corporations or states, countries need to step in and deal with it, but
Absolutely. And I don't want to be I could easily just be this ball of hope and try to be optimistic about it and just sort of be hopeful about it, but at the same time I don't believe that that's gonna happen like that. So I'm I'm usually I'm not such a pessimistic person usually, but when it comes to this, it's it's so complicated, and it's bigger, and it doesn't have to be, but we've made it complicated. So
yeah.
There's so much stuff to work through before we can live in eco-friendly cities, but it's it's so possible. It's so possible for us to just change everything immediately. But where's that gonna happen when we still live in a consumerist capitalist society? It's very difficult.
Exactly, yeah. We need to rethink everything from the ground up. Yes. Okay, I have one last question for you. This is from Atita Verghese.
Ah, interesting. She's my older sister.
So she said, what is the last song you sang along to?
What was the last song? I think it was Point and Kill by Little Sims.
Oh, okay. Yes, right.
Yeah, I was just humming it yesterday, actually. It's funny. Funny that she asked me that. Yeah, she knows how much I like to sing, I guess.
Well, yeah, let's wrap it up here. Thank you so much, Atita.
Yeah, thank you so much, Quentin, for having me. It's an honor.
That's it for my conversation with Atita. Follow her on Instagram at RattyAtty, RATTYATTY. Follow Girl Skate India at Girl Skate India. Go watch the panel discussion about skate NGOs at Pushing Boarders Malmö in 2019 on YouTube, as well as the first Girl Skate India tour from 2015 we talked about on Vimeo. I'll put links up on my Linktree page. Thank you for tuning in. See you soon for a new episode of Beyond Boards.